Winston-Salem Police Chief William Penn Jr. is here with us today. You just marked your first year as chief.
Absolutely, 2 weeks ago.
So we're going to be talking about everything from his first year to crime numbers and recruiting new officers. Chief Penn is also taking your questions, and you can text those questions right now to the number that is on your screen. That's 336-379-5775. You text in that question, it's anonymous, and you get your question answered here live on TV. All right, so what we want to do though is start with one of the main stories from Winston-Salem today, and I do want to ask you about it. So let's bring everybody up to speed on what happened today. There was a deadly shooting. It was on Goldfloss Street. It happened last night. One of the people killed was 19-year-old Shannon Pitts. Now, you might recognize his name because he was the student charged with bringing a gun onto Forsyth Technical Community College last year. That gun went off in a bathroom. Students were there on a field trip. Everything got locked down. Now, he was supposed to be in court next month, I believe, to face other gun charges, and here we are, once again, talking about a shooting that led to a death.
Yeah, so anytime you talk about illegal uses of guns, oftentimes folks are concerned about going to jail aspect, but all studies will show you that folks who engage in that type of activity, they are also subject to being the victims of those very crimes. So that's why it's such a big deal, and that's why we push, legal use of guns so much.
And I think this is just super timely in the whole thing of we've had a year that had violent crime records, homicides. Neighbors are thinking to themselves, okay, what is going on? How do we get a handle on this? At the same time, we're hearing about shortages at the police station. So let's first just talk about the whole neighborhood aspect, the gun aspect, the violence aspect.
Yeah, so we call it public safety, and we call it public safety for a reason. We all have a role in the safety of our community. So police department, neighbors, community organizations, even our businesses, all of us are stakeholders in the safety of our community. So we all have to work together to put an end to this senseless gun violence and violence, period.
So how do we do that? Like, what are the kind of the steps? Could you give people examples of, they might be just the resident or they might be the business owner. How do we do that? Because we all want to see these numbers go down.
So we often talk about see something, say something. And we understand that some folks are hesitant to do so, particularly calling 911, but you can text a tip. You can call Crime Stoppers, but you can also do things like help out in the community, help our youth, volunteer. All of these things come back to keeping the community safe.
What I'm hearing you kind of say is policing is not going to get ourselves out of this. It's like actually circling the wagons and being neighbors helps us get out of this a little bit more.
Right. We have absolutely in the past tried to arrest our way out of the issues in our communities, and we know that's been an abject failure. We have to work together to solve these issues and understand that we didn't get to this place overnight and it won't be fixed overnight.
And yet at the same time, if somebody does something wrong, we want you to arrest them.
Listen, I make it clear I believe in prevention, I believe in intervention, but I believe in apprehension. If you're out in the community stirring up trouble, being violent towards our community, I'm all about arresting and putting you in jail.
Let's talk about having officers in the field to be able to do that. Shortages at police departments is something that we're seeing nationwide. So how do we combat that nationwide? How do we combat that here in Winston-Salem, Greensboro, the Triad?
One of the things you want to do is support the police department that you do, the police employees you do have. It's important. We are all about being held accountable, but for the folks who have stayed in this field, trying to do the job, trying to keep this community safe, let's give them the support they need. That's a first step. We also have to do a good job of showing what we do in the job that's not just arresting people. So we're out in the community, we're talking to folks, we're building those bridges, we want to build that trust. We also play the intervention piece. We want to steer people from crime before they actually start committing the violent acts. And then there's the third part, which is arresting people. So it's so much more to an officer than just putting people in jail and writing tickets.
All right, and so what I just heard from you is, hey, the people that we do have, we want to make sure that they know that we want them there. And so what does that mean? Is that like pay increases? Is that resources increases?
So you have to be competitive with pay. There's no way around that. Also, you have to be willing to invest in the technology. So whether or not bodies and the police department, technology does exist where we can keep the community safe. So we do need the bodies, we need the technology.
Right, and that's sometimes like a hard thing to do because you only have so much money in a budget, right?
Absolutely.
And you have to choose what that technology is or whatever that is to upgrade that really is going to help in policing.
That's the balancing act as a chief. We need the bodies, we need the technology. We also have to educate the community on the technology so that they feel comfortable and safe. It's kind of scary when we start talking about license plate readers, artificial intelligence, and cameras. But if we educate the community and they come to the table with what we're trying to do, I think they'll understand. We're trying to keep the community safe.
Okay, let's talk about recruiting. You guys have kind of really changed how recruiting looks.
Right, so what we understand and what most research tells us is that unlike when I joined the agency 26 years ago, applicants who are interested in law enforcement, they go to social media first. They don't go to websites, they go to social media. So what we had to do as an agency is show applicants what it's like to work at the Winston-Salem Police Department. So you've probably seen with our social media, much more lively, a much larger footprint in social media, and it's been working for us thus far.
And it kind of shows like personality of the department versus just, hey, come work here kind of thing.
Right, so folks should be attracted to the folks who work at Winston-Salem Police Department because we have a great agency with great people. We needed to do a better job of showing that side of policing because after all, we are people as well as law enforcement officials.
Okay. All right, so we're going to continue this conversation. We want to make sure that we get your questions answered as well. You see the number that's there at the bottom of the screen, 336-379-5775. We'll be right back.